So this is certainly something that we have to grapple with all across this nation. So let's get on with that important discussion.
Thank you very much, Senator. Appreciate it very much. I think Senator Kaler is expressing from his heart a feeling that I don't think the word is epiphany, but sort of a cathartic moment when I got a passing grade from Dr. Ali's racial equity and social justice class 2 years ago. But you are required to be comfortable saying I am a beneficiary of white privilege. I don't remember that being in the syllabus, but I walked away saying that to the point where it annoyed some people, which means I was making some progress, right? So having heard from these two, we've asked a whole bunch of folks to come express your views. I know Sue Katz is on a short timeline, and Sue, if you had any words, I invited many people to give us your comments. We do expect you to speak if you're going to eat the free coffee. Sue, is your mic on, by the way?
Better? I'm Susan Katz. I'm the Executive Director of the Jewish Federation of Peoria, and I want to thank Andrew for inviting me to this meeting, and I want to commend the city and the council for addressing this very important issue. I do want to say on behalf of the Jewish community that this is something that's very important to us, that we've been involved in a very long time in the fight for racial justice, and unfortunately sometimes it feels like the work that we did in the 60s wasn't done, and it wasn't. So I certainly hope that we can contribute in some way to making this city a better place, because as I said, it's very important to us. We have a phrase, tikkun olam, which is to repair the world, and that's a critical value to the Jewish people, and we need to be a part of this because we see it as a deep wound that we want to help heal. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sue. There are several representatives here today. I see Patrick Yerk from the city of Peoria. Looking around the room, folks that want to give advice or comments to the body. Anybody in the back? Mr. Cannon, Mr. Carl Cannon, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, City Council, County Board. I've participated in the process since the George Floyd incident, the mayor's call asking that I sit on that commission led by Dr. Ali. There was a moment during one of our discussions when Dr. Ali brought 3 young professionals to the venue. They were all 3 African American. They had all 3 achieved higher education, and they were all products of this city and this county. And then the go-to question was, what are you going to do after graduation? And it was sad because their comments were, we're going to live here, we're going to live there, we're going to live elsewhere. So the question became, why? Why not Peoria? And they said, well, and they were trying to be so polite, they said, really, there's nothing to do. It was disappointing, but I'm optimistic. I left this city 20-something years ago, said I'd never come back. I retired from the military, and look where I sit. This city has a lot to offer. This county has a lot to offer, but we do need all your help to up the game we might need some resources to up the game. If you can help us do that, I promise you that we'll work with the youth who will benefit from it. We'll work with them so that they can appreciate it. And they too will achieve higher education, and they will one day sit in a seat occupied by many of you in leadership, and it will represent what Peoria should represent, social equity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. I know there's folks in the hall that I cannot see, but I'd be happy to call. Is it time for Dr. Sheila Quirk-Bailey? Hello. For those of you that have been living in a box for the past 5 years, Dr. Quirk-Bailey is president of ICC. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now we recognize you.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, was privileged to be on the committee, the task force that was put together by Senator Kaler and the mayor. And I think there is no time like now to address this issue, for us to come together and to realize that systemically there are barriers to African Americans having the same opportunity, opportunity for success, opportunity for a living wage, opportunity for education, and that while that may not have been our intent, that has been our result, and we can take a look at how we systemically put things together and change that and create programs that meet people where they are and help them through the barriers that have been developed by our systems and move this community forward. From an economic development point of view, you may not all be aware that only 40% of the adults in our community have any kind of post-secondary credential. 70% of the jobs available require a post-secondary credential. In terms of economically recovering from COVID and moving our community forward, we have what other parts of the state do not have. We have the human capital to move forward. If we invest, right, and we align the credentials people need with the jobs that are available, right, other parts of Illinois, people are leaving the state and they can't fill their jobs. We have the people here. We invest in them, right, and we revise the systems we have that create the barriers that keep them from moving forward now. We can not only provide more people with living wage jobs, we can right the historic wrongs of the past in terms of social inequities in our community, and we can make this community far more economically vibrant, right, and socially invigorating and full of opportunity for everyone. And I truly believe that is within our grasp under the leadership of the county and the city as we come together to address those systemic barriers. So I appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you. It's very nice to see you, and thank you for coming by today. Could you see others that might be raising a hand out here? Mr. Andre Allen. Andre, as serious as this topic is, I did find it humorous that you were thrown in the youth bucket with Sincere Williams. So
I'll take it.
I mean, I think he's like 18. So
I'll definitely take it, and I plan on getting a cup of coffee on the way out. So I figure I'll say a few words. But thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here. This is something that's very personal to me. Someone that's grown up here in Peoria. And I'm one of the rare ones who graduated from Peoria Public Schools, went off to college, graduated, and came back. I'm in a group chat with like 10 of my closest friends, and they're in Atlanta and Denver and New York, and I get jealous of their Snapchats, I'm not going to lie. And they say, well, Andre, why are you still in Peoria? You know, there's colleges everywhere. You can work anywhere over the country. You have your master's, you're working on your PhD. Why are you in Peoria? And I said, because this is home. This is personal. I want to be part of the solution. And so I'm very, blessed to be a part of this coalition led by Dr. Ali and just so many, the variety of stakeholders that were on this coalition. One of the things that I love about it is that it's intentional. It's the right time, and I really appreciate that the city council and the county board is owning the moment and really taking advantage of this opportunity to really affect change in the city of Peoria and the county of Peoria as well too. I think it's very important. So I really hope for your support. I think it's very important, especially as the millennials. I know we get blamed for everything from just eating our avocado toast and these things of that nature, but we want the same things as well too. I want Peoria to be a vibrant community where my friends that have moved away, they want to come back. I'm raising my family here. I want my daughter goes to Peoria Public Schools. Actually just turned 6. Shout out to Barbie Marie today. And I want her to have the same upbringing that I had in this community. And I want my friends to want to stay here. I want our young talent to stay here. And I want people to look at Peoria and the city of, in the county of Peoria, as a place where they can work, live, and play all at the same time. So please, this is a great initiative. Please support it. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Andre. It's nice to see you again. Is there anyone else on this? Anyone else want to comment before I open it back up for the members and Mr. Sorrell? Okay, it's not closed permanently. If somebody raises your hand while we're conversing, I'll be happy to try to recognize you and give you the floor. Comments? There's a few mom, daughter, father, daughter, father, son folks in here tonight. Let's see if you can figure them out. Go ahead, Kate.
I just want to express my thanks, and this is a very important topic, and I'm glad that Peoria County and the city of Peoria are taking the initiative to address the systemic social and racial injustices in our community. I just heard the other day on the radio a comment that I think applies to this situation, and maybe all situations really, is that a well-defined problem, it means you're halfway to the solution. And I think that, I'm going through my head, there's so many parts of this that, that seemingly unrelated, but they're all part of this bigger picture. And so I just want to thank you, and I look forward to hearing more about, number one, just the development of what all the issues are that surround this problem that we need to address, and kind of tackling it from all angles. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pastucha. Dr. Blair, welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm not in quarantine.
You were not required. Okay.
Not required to be. I just had a couple comments. I'm in full support of this. My 13 years here in Peoria, I've really discovered there's a lot of talent and expertise, and I know that we can work together to help try to solve some of these problems. While this is a difficult and complicated issue, I know that we can get work done on it. And I've always heard that defining the problem is 80% of the way to the solution. Yeah, so.
She has her PhD. There's a few of them in there. Thank you, Dr. Blair. I was scanning over here. Ms. Groves Allison.
I'd just like to add that kudos to those that started this idea. My understanding is it was 3 white males, and they were able to recognize that this is something that probably shouldn't be led by 3 white males. So fully support the program, and thank you to all of you that came together to do this.
Middle-aged white males. Thank you, Mr. Ricker.
And I'll be short. I think this is a great initiative for all of us and for the city. I think it brings to all of our attention the injustice that we've had, inequities. There's a lot of segments of our population have been disadvantaged for many years, and we've talked about it, but we haven't done anything substantial, and I heard some of those same comments. So, I'm looking forward to this action to come up with some really good outcomes and results that will drive and achieve what we're trying to achieve, is that equity among all of our citizens in our county, our city. So we all have, similar to the video, we all start at the same place. We don't have that disadvantage. As I'll say middle-aged white man, since you called that middle-aged, I've done a lot of soul searching on it. I'll just share some stories. I've got some men's groups that we meet and on a regular basis. I've got one group that's a prayer group, and we've got a good racial diversity group. Got a gentleman from Ethiopia background. I've got a couple Asian people on the group and some other white males. But we've had some really good discussions over the last 4 months about racial inequity, about white advantages that we've had, and even the discussion about getting someone to say, have I done thing racial, or have I been racist in my behaviors? And I'm the first to say that not intentionally, but behaviorally, for growing up, you're doing some things that are probably racial type of activities that you don't really know until you think about it and you talk about it. So I'm ready to talk about it, put it on the table, but more important, I'm really looking to this group, and I think the formation looks like a good formation to drive results. So again, ultimately for me, I'm a numbers person, I'm a results person, metrics I really want to see, and I know this group will drive some good results for the city, so we can look back a year, 2 years, 5 years from now and say, we're doing the right thing for our citizens. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Steve. I'm going to loan you my copy of a book written by a professor over here at Eureka called Colorblind Racism. It's quite an eye-opener. Mr. Salzer, did I see your hand?
Definitely, I support this in our society right now. I've always supported it. In fact, Mr. Ricker just said something that when I was going to Bradley, I didn't know there was racism. Many of the black kids that I was in school with and participated in other activities and so forth, I didn't know they had a hard time finding a place to live. I didn't know they couldn't go get a haircut at a certain barbershop up there at Bradley. I heard about a lot of that after I got out. I hope while I was teaching that I was not guilty of racism. But being in an area like athletics as well as in the classroom, I hope I didn't discriminate against any kid. I know this, in athletics, if a coach wants to win, he's going to play the best kids. And I coached in football and primarily track and field, and the African American kid dominated in those two sports. And as I coached basketball for 3 years, and then when I found out that every parent thought their kid could play basketball because he bounced the ball and it came back to him, they kind of drove me out of basketball. But anyway, I did listen to Dr. Ali's recitation of many of these very prominent and qualified individuals. I did pick up, I think, on one thing, and there's not as much probably discrimination from a standpoint of seeing it publicized and so forth, but there was only, I think, one Hispanic American on that committee. Was it Cruz? Was that who that?
Dr. Iyer.
Okay. Cruz was not. Was there a Cruz on there? He's the president of OSF. President. Okay. And I'm sure that more and more people will be brought in to the group and so forth. But let's not leave anybody unsolicited. Also, when Andre Allen talked about coming back to the community, I think of people that have stayed in our community, and some of them I've had in school and so forth, and they've served on the council. They've become barbers and so forth. We got, I almost called him Kenny Cannon because that's what he had to go by in high school because his dad was, his dad's name was Carl, but we're proud of guys like Carl. Carl, who he would not tell you this, but he was an all-conference tackle for us on the football team, and he was a good wrestler for us. He didn't weigh quite as much as he does now. And Mr. Kaler over here, I don't think he would have won the wrestling. Mr. Kaler was an awful good wrestler in high school as well. And college, did you wrestle in college? You want to take Kenny on right now? Okay. But anyway, one of the things also, job training. Now, apprentice courses, and this is where I used to get upset with some of our counselors. I don't think they promoted them enough. We need skilled people. And I think our president of ICC, she indicated we need skilled people for a lot of these jobs. And so there's great opportunity for a career in these areas. And I know when the operating engineers, they were one of the first to develop a training center and so forth. They've got a great one down on 24, I think it is, and several other of the crafts. The electricians, they are building a new center for or they just built a new center, and now they're moving their actual union hall out there in the Bartonville area. But let's not give up on trades and say everybody's got to go to college, because they've got some tough programs. But yeah, I'll sign on to this. And I hope I signed on it years ago.
Thank you, Phil. It's hard to follow Phil, but I think I got one. Is Representative John Gordon Booth on the line? Representative Gordon Booth, are you still on the line? Okay, perhaps we can reach back out to her. We had her just a few moments ago. Thank you, Phil. Did your hand go up, Junior? Yes, thank you, brother. Jimmy.
Better get this in because I didn't want to follow Jahan. She's a tough act to follow. So whenever you start feeling down about Peoria, you just got to look around and realize how many good people and smart minds are still in this community. And sometimes Peoria people are tougher on themselves than other places, but when you look around and you see brilliant minds like Andrew Rand, who came and built AMT, Dr. Quirk Bailey, what she's doing at ICC, Senator Kaler been all over from California, born in South Dakota, to come here, and they see the beauty that we have here. And Andre hit the nail on the head. As a proud West Peoria kid that grew up in West Peoria, now that calls the first district home, as a proud Peoria person, I want my daughters to stay here. This is long overdue conversations of how our schools, because I've seen friends and families move out and say, well, I don't want to go to that school. I don't want to go that. We have to address all these issues, and to keep just saying that there's nothing wrong is ignoring what's right in front of you. And Chairman, Mayor, Dr. Ali, Senator Kaler, thanks for putting this together. And when I see the people that you've put on this, it makes me excited to see that this go forward. And this is we always talk about silos. And this is one of those things I'm really glad to see some of this stuff getting broken down and the city and the county coming together. And I'm looking forward to this one, but I hope that this isn't just the only thing that the city and county can come together on, because we're facing a lot of tough issues, and we can't just keep doing things the way we're done in the past. You have to change with the times, or the times go pass you by. And for the city and the county not to start collaborating more and moving forward in these conversations and even other things that we can go on would be a big mistake. So I think this is the start of something beautiful, and we can move forward. And Jody from Nebraska, so I forgot to mention, but so we can move this all forward, and thank you for starting the conversation, and I look forward to hearing more about it.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. I see our distinguished executive in public health is in the pre-chamber. I had a chance, I'll put you on the spot if you don't mind, Monica. You've been on the spot since January. I had a chance to digest a few parts of this charter with her yesterday. And for all the time I've known Monica as the director of public health, she has used her scientific analysis of our stuff in the community through the lens of an epidemiologist. And certainly there is no stretch case to be made to identify poverty as epidemic and something that can be studied and managed better through a scientific approach. And racism is tied to the hip, welded to the hip, glued to the hip, bolted to the hip, nailed to the hip of most issues related to poverty that I'm aware of. So it's hard to use one word without the other, and I was wanting to see if Monica would comment as one of two epidemiologists in all of Illinois, right here. Somebody's child wants to be a virologist. Is that yours, Rob? Doesn't one of your kids want to be a virologist or an epidemiologist? The one, but so right there is the one we got, Brady. I'll open the floor with that entree for you.
As the chairman mentioned, in public health, we see racism as a multifaceted issue that has impacted an individual's health. I think Dr. Ali spoke about the loss of years of life potential lost because of racism. And we see that in the data here in our own county, where when you compare zip codes, socioeconomic indicators, even race, that overall African Americans tend to die between 12 to 15 years sooner than their white counterparts, after you control for a plethora of reasons. And so for our Board of Health on July of 20th this year, they did issue a position statement, really putting into focus the fact that racism is a public health crisis. We see the impacts of it, whether it's direct or, as the chairman mentioned, those socioeconomic factors and behaviors that really do impact quality of life and outcome of life. And so I can speak to our Board of Health, and what we've done is that we had just finished, and actually last year, the planning, and started this year before COVID hit, looking at 3 goals around our own strategic plan. And many of you know in the county board that our Board of Health is very active in strategic planning. And one of the goals is health equity. And we recognize that when we approach issues around health disparity in our communities, equity is an approach that puts a lens on how do we address outcomes that these disparities, whether it's direct or indirect, have exacerbated over time. And so I think we look forward to this strategic plan that's been outlined. And, we would also really want to make sure that whether it's the strategic plan that is created by this commission, the one that the county board is looking to adopt, or the city council, that equity in general should be a framework when you start building from that, so that the sustainability of a community is actually based on this idea that everyone has the same outcomes versus everyone gets the same starting point. We want to make sure everyone reaches that end result. And so, again, the Board of Health is very excited about this commission and the conversations that we've already had around it, as well as really appreciates the fact that we are aligning some public health concerns with the overall idea of this community.
Monica, he perked up in his chair, and I don't think, Brady, you didn't miss a word she said, did you? No. How many years of school, Monica?
4.
He's up for that. Is John Gordon Booth perhaps back on the phone? Wow, we missed a chance. I know there are some county-wide electeds here who I also want to give the privilege of the floor to, if they so choose. I see Beth Kreider has raised her hand. And if you were starting to get sleepy, that's about to end. Hi, Beth. Welcome back.
Thank you. And obviously, the Regional Office of Education absolutely supports, because COVID has exposed inequity like a magnifier when it comes to public education in the city of Peoria. We as a community are going to have to, for years to come, deal with the gaps in learning that are going to occur through this time.
Could you get a little closer to the mic?
Absolutely.
This is one of the rare times I can't hear you, so go ahead.
Okay, the one thing I wanted to offer, and the reason I wanted to speak, is when I watched that video, I hear the need for trauma-informed practices. What does racism do and other events? Those were all adverse childhood experiences that I have shared with my committee in Ways and Means. You've heard me beat the drum, Steve, of trauma-informed practices. Trauma changes the brain with the release of cortisol into the body. And we need to be a trauma-informed city, we need to be a trauma-informed county, and we need to be talking about resiliency factors so that we're not saying things like at-risk youth and disadvantaged youth. We're saying opportunities and resiliency. So I would just encourage us, there are cities out there, I've talked about this ad nauseum with Anthony Corso, of how we become a resilient city, and COVID has exposed that, and this is our chance, so let's go.
Thank you, Beth. Ms. Thomas, Jessica, Auditor, Madam Auditor Thomas, welcome.
I'd like to thank Rita again for chairing this committee. This is something that's desperately needed for the county and the city. And much like Alan said, I was born and raised on the south side of Peoria, educated in Peoria public schools. Did move away for college and did love it in Louisiana and wanted to stay in Louisiana. But I decided, my mom convinced me to move back to Peoria. And my whole plan of when I move back to Peoria is not to leave it the same way, to absolutely give opportunity to people where opportunity wasn't extended before. I had a lot of great things growing up in the city of Peoria and Peoria Public Schools. One of the organizations was a Key Club, Kiwanis Club, who does a lot of work still in the community and in our Peoria Public Schools. And so I think this whole collaboration and this group is great. I would just want us to also look to other groups that are also doing the work. Junior League of Peoria, Kiwanis Club, Urban League. I'm the vice president of my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We're founded on social action and social justice. And in the NAACP, I'm the chair of the Young Adults Committee. So the young people are ready. They're ready to get involved and ready to change Peoria. And they really want to stay. They just need opportunity. And they want their voice to be heard. So I think this group is a great opportunity for that. But much like Steve said, I would like for other groups to also have like a fixture on that, because they're doing the work, and we don't want to work in silos with this, because there are other groups that are absolutely out there doing the work, addressing the inequities of the food desert and things like that in the community. So thank you guys for all that.
Thank you, Jessica. Anyone else? Brandy, hi. Ms. Bryant, welcome.
I just want to say that I'm in full support as well for this joint collaborative initiative. I think it's very important, and for all the different components that go along with this, with the equity, the housing, the justice. There's so many different areas that we truly need to rebuild and support all people and I think it's a great collaborative initiative, and we have great minds on both the city and county. So I think it's wonderful.
Thank you, Brandy. Looking to the back row there, you guys good? All right, Mr. Renault, welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo a little bit what Jimmy said. This is long overdue, and I know it's going to take a while to undo everything that's been done and that's gone on for generations. But I really hope in 20 years my kid who's here tonight, who isn't having the same conversation. I'm hoping that we can get stuff done, and again, be in it for the long haul. But hopefully his generation will see the fruit of all this labor. So thank you.
Thank you. The busyness up here is we're just trying to get back to Jahan, who's close.
Scott?
Hey, Representative.
Hey, how are you?
Good. All right, the mic is yours.
Oh, great. Hold on, let me. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry that I could not be with you, but I don't want to belabor the points. I think a lot of the points have already been made. I would just say that I think that this moment that we are all living through, it has been a very painful, it's been a very painful period for many of us in the community for different reasons. But I absolutely believe that this painful period that we are all experiencing collectively is going to birth something better on the other side, whether it be the issues of the pandemic that we're going to have to continue to deal with ongoing, and all the challenges that will come from that, specifically to the issues that we're meeting about as it relates to the inequities specifically based in race. I do believe that this kind of collaborative effort is what is going to be required and necessary to begin to look at things through a new lens. And so I'm just grateful to be able to be in this space with you all and do this work. I am hopeful. As a gentleman prior to me talks about, he hopes that his children don't have to be involved in the same level of work. I simply want to echo that. Over the weekend, I was looking up some historical stuff. I went into my mother's box over the weekend, and my mother was incredibly involved and engaged in this community. And it just sat very heavy on me that many of the issues, my mother's been gone for almost 11 years. She died when she was 68. That many of the issues that she was working on, I find myself, 50, 60 years later, being involved in working on some of those very same issues. And my hope is that the work that we do lives certainly beyond all of our tenure, and certainly in elected office, but even in community leadership, that the work that we do in this moment lives beyond all of us, and our children and grandchildren are able to benefit from it. So again, just grateful to be able to be in this space with you all, and look forward to all of the work that we're going to do together for the future to build a bigger and better Peoria County.
Thank you, Representative Gordon. We appreciate you sticking with us today. Is there anyone else who may want to make some comments before we just seek consensus from the body? Mr. Elsasser.
Well, I have to confess that the meeting has turned out a lot differently than I thought it would. I didn't have we didn't have much of an agenda, and we didn't have access to this, and so I didn't know whether the discussion was going to be about defunding police or how racist everyone was, and so when I first saw this, I was pleased with the objectives, and because I've always found this community to truly be one of the most outstanding communities in America as far as Christian-based, giving, caring, sharing, loving, and I don't have a racist bone in my body, and I don't know of anyone else that is racist, but I'm sure there are people in the community that are do have that tendency, but and normally I'm against any kind of a new commission or hiring consultants or different things like that, because I'm more of a doer instead of a talking about what needs to be done. But anytime we can try to keep young people in school, try to keep them away from drugs, try to keep them away from crime, try to better their lives, try to keep our young people in Peoria, the city of Peoria and Peoria County, Central Illinois. I've always been a strong advocate for that. And even Mr. Salzer, when he talked about the vocational school, I mean, I'm very pleased in the last several years what they've been doing down at Woodruff. And, because like Mr. Salzer said, not everybody's going to go to college and ICC and study and get a 4-year degree. And so I've always been a doer, and, and I support anything we can do to better this community in that regard. When I was involved in the jail ministry out at the jail before I got married, this was actually before Peoria Promise. Our church actually offered the opportunity for anyone that was getting out of jail to go to ICC for free. And so our family's always been that way. We have friends that are African American, families that have been through tough times, and we try to maintain a relationship with them and help them. And our kids have gone down to the Southside Mission, and they've actually brought African American children out to our home for the weekend and spent the weekend with us. So I've always been a doer and possibly against commissions like this, but I've read through it, and it seems to be something that I could probably support.
Well, I look forward to that support. Senator Kaler.
Mr. Elsesser reminded me of something that should say is that I have pledged and secured $250,000 from the state of Illinois to help fund this activity. I wish I could say the check's in the mail, but it's not quite there yet since we have some financial issues at the state level as well, but there will be $250,000 coming for this.
Thank you. Ms. Pastucha.
One of the outcomes that I'm hoping for with the formation of this committee and the process of healing our community is to open the eyes. So this is not just a black problem. It's not just a Hispanic problem. This is a community problem. And so one of the things that I hope is the outcome of this, to quote my Bradley professor, Dr. Zant, I don't know if he's still teaching, but he's an incredible person. He said that the more you know, you don't know. The more you know, the more you know you don't know. So I think we need to accept that for people who are white and privileged and upper class, we need to acknowledge and really learn that we don't and we can't know about the experiences of other people because we just have not had those experiences and probably never will. So I hope that this is an eye-opening for our community, especially among white and upper class privileged individuals, so that we all learn from this experience and can wake up. So,
thank you. If there are no other comments to be offered or considered, I am simply seeking your consensus to organize a joint meeting with the city of Peoria at a date and time in just a couple of weeks. We believe the venue, unless the health status of our region changes, would be the Peoria Riverfront Museum, because I think we can stage people in areas and get far enough apart downstairs to make it a healthful meeting. So what I'm looking for is, by show of hands, how many of you are willing to make that step? Are you willing to proceed to the next step, have a joint committee, joint meeting with the city of Peoria to affirm and authorize the Thank you very much. And you're in. All right, he put 2 fingers up, so I mean, that's how Junior does it here. Okay, that would be unanimous by members of the body for Jan, who's recording it. And I would just say I don't need to make a closing pitch. I'm thrilled to death. I don't need to make a closing pitch. I do appreciate you looking into my eyes early on and want to thank you for that. Mr. Elsatz.
Would it be appropriate to ask the people that are online, calling in by phone or not?
Sure. No, that's fine. Thank you. That's a great point, Brian. I didn't mean to leave them out. So Member Relaford, Member Duncan, and Member Rosenbaum. With respect to a joint city-county committee meeting and advancing the charter thus described this evening, how do you say?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Mr. Elsesser. Now it would be unanimous. Okay, appreciate it. Did you get your, oh, you got your comment. We will thus be adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And our regular directors meeting will begin at 6 o'clock.
Rachel Relaford.